Warriors Home Improvement Show, built by Par Lumber. When it comes to big or small projects around the home, Tony and Corey have got the know-how and the answers to make your life just a bit easier. Here they are, your Weekend Warriors, Tony and Corey.
Hey, welcome to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show, built by Par Lumber. I'm Corey Valdez.
And I'm Tony Cookston.
Thanks for tuning in with us today. We've got another great show for you today. Tony and I are going to be talking about epic fails.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to talk about the things at your house that are not expected to last the lifetime of your house. Obviously, here's a very simple example of something that's going to last the lifetime of your house. The foundation, the walls. Right? These are things that can last the entire lifetime of your home.
Well, you hope so.
But there are things that don't last the entire lifetime of your home, things that you can expect that will have to be replaced. And being able to expect it, then it doesn't come as a surprise, and it's easier to plan for it.
That's right.
So we thought we would take a little time and share with you a list of the things that we see at a home that are expected to fail at some point, and just raise your awareness of things that you'll, something that's in your future.
Many of these we have fallen victim of.
Yeah. Some of them are super simple and easy, and everybody knows it. Here's a primary example of that. A light bulb. Obviously, light bulbs have a lifespan, and that lifespan compared to the lifespan of your home is short. So that's something that you have to plan for, something that has to be replaced.
Yeah, pretty often, I would say, with the advent of LED, probably not as much, but, the old incandescent bulbs were, they'd burn out quite often.
Right, absolutely. So that's money that you have to spend periodically in order to keep things running smoothly in the home. Well, some of the things in the home that will fail are not as obvious. So we're going to talk about some of those things.
Yeah, I guess probably the biggest thing, like you said, Tony, is just being prepared. Having the wherewithal to maybe save some money, like for a fact that a water heater is going to last around 15 years. So that you need to have around that 15-year mark, just keep an eye on it. And when it fails, don't be surprised.
Are you picking on me? You know that my house is 15 years old and I have my original water heater?
No.
I feel like you just jinxed me.
Yeah, that's a bad jinx.
I'm going to go.
It's going to happen.
I'm going to go home and not have any hot water, and I'm going to say it's Corey's fault.
Have you been draining it every year like you're supposed to?
No, I definitely have not. As a matter of fact, I got some advice from a really good friend of mine who said, hey, look, if you're 5 years in and you haven't already been doing it, you're probably just asking for trouble if you do.
That is, from my understanding, that is exactly what would happen. There is a sacrificial rod in there that it attracts the minerals, and it erodes that instead of the jacket that your water heater's on. And as it erodes, it creates sediment, or if your water has sediment or it's hard, then that stuff will settle in the bottom of your water heater. And if you try to drain it, you could just cause a lot of problems if you're already down the road. From what I've seen, you're actually supposed to drain them every year.
And if you do drain it every year and you're regular on that, then you probably will extend the life of it longer. In case you don't know about a water heater or how it works, the water is filled into the water heater from the top, but into a down tube that goes all the way down to the bottom. And it feeds the hot water heater with cold water. And then the cold water populates at the bottom and fills up from the bottom up. And then up at the top where your water comes out of the hot water heater to go to your sink or your shower, that water is hot. So as the water is coming into the hot water heater at the bottom, it's cold. And then the hot water heats it. The hot water heater heats it. And then it goes out the top. So sediment and things inside there that fall from your sacrificial rod or whatever, that stuff settles at the bottom. It doesn't really affect you because it doesn't hang out at the top and cause you to be using dirty water or anything like that. But some things about your water heater can fail, like that sacrificial rod. If it breaks down in that area, that can be something that needs to be replaced. It can cause your hot water heater to stop working, or your down tube can come disconnected from the top. And then what's happening then is the cold water is being deposited at the top of your water heater instead of at the bottom, shortening the amount of hot water that you have available to you when you take a shower. So those short, hot showers are as a result of your hot water heater malfunctioning.
Yeah, we actually had somebody, one of our listeners, come up to us and ask us this question just a couple weeks ago. And I'm not a huge plumbing expert, so I would defer to a plumber or somebody in that world. But that is my understanding as well, that anode rod can go. And if you wait and start draining it after the fact, you're just kind of asking for problems at that point. So if you're going to do it, you got to start doing it in the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Have you ever drained a hot water heater?
I never have.
I mean, so you have to attach something to the bottom, like a hose, right? And then drag the hose outside. Right. And then turn that thing on so that water all comes out. I mean, you have to drain that out into your lawn or something. It's really kind of a messy process and lengthy. And then, of course, you have a period of time where you don't have any hot water after you're filling it back up. So, but you have to do that if you're going to replace any parts of it. You, of course, have to drain it first. So, anyways, that's one of the things, right? That's actually a decent expense, right? We're probably talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 or $800, maybe even more, depending on the hot water heater that you get or the size of the one that you get.
I think I just got one, and I think mine was about $1,500 installed. So that's my experience. I don't know if I got ripped off or not. I maybe. I mean, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
it's not cheap,
right? Plumbing, it's not really our number one thing. Plumbing and electric are, things that are a little outside of our realm.
Yeah, there are things that even a weekend warrior shouldn't tackle. I mean, I was actually told, one of my buddies was like, "Oh, you can do it." But the thing about water heaters in Oregon, especially, and actually Washington too, is that you have to have, it's all seismic here. So you have to have them strapped in properly.
Right, yeah.
And the biggest thing that I feared was the gas, right? So I have a gas water heater.
Oh, yeah.
And when it heats up, it has exhaust. And that exhaust has to vent out through the roof. And if you don't do it right, it could leak and fill my garage where my water heater is with maybe CO2 fumes and potentially, and I just didn't want to mess with that. And I don't feel as a weekend warrior who almost tackles just about anything. There's things like that I just will stay away from.
Just a little out of your scope, huh?
I feel, yeah.
My situation would be even worse if I were on gas, which I'm not, but if I were, my hot water heater is inside my home. It's actually in the entry closet behind the coats. And
what do you have, electric though?
It's electric, yeah. So anyways, there's definitely electric that would have to be dealt with. And then the plumbing aspect of it. And it's, if I had somebody with me like you that had done the work before, I would feel confident going forward with somebody else's, experience at the very least, whether it's expertise or not. Having somebody with you that's been through it before, is a really good way to add that sort of thing to your repertoire.
But even with an electric, you got to make sure you wire it properly.
Yeah, you definitely need to have somebody there that's helping you. All right, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, more things in your home that will fail. You're listening to Tony and Corey, Your Weekend Warriors. Don't go away.
Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors. Thanks for staying with us. Today on the show, we're talking about epic fails, and not in terms of things that we've done, but epic failures within your home.
Right.
Or home failures. And there's a lot. The list is long. I mean, a lot of these Tony and I have experienced firsthand. And some of them, I just know. I've created a list in my head of things around my house. And I do this regularly. I don't know if you do this, Tony, or not, but I walk around my house regularly and I look at things and I go, that's not looking too good. Or that's getting really old and I'm going to add that to my mental list of things that I need to get replaced or fixed up. I mean, there's a big list in my house. And I guess that's just me. I'm a kind of a perfectionist. I really like my house, everything in my house to be tip top and in really good shape.
It reminds me of a funny thing. You and I were having a conversation one day right here in the studio. We were talking about something, and I said, Corey, what would be really great would be to get a second set of eyes on my home. I want you to come out to my house. Let's walk around and take a look and see what we see, and we'll have conversation about things that probably need to be addressed that I'm not addressing currently. And sometimes it's nice to have a second set of eyes. And so I kind of rely on Corey's list for my house.
I say, I need to fix this. Tony's like, oh, yeah, I need to do that too.
Yeah, I need to do that. I mean, but you know what? That's what it's about. You have to be thinking about those things, talking about those things, and planning for those things. I'm not going to see something that needs to be done and then rush out and do it that weekend probably, because I have a long list of things that's going to take a long period of time to get done. And I like to spend some time thinking about it and planning for it and deciding, what it's going to be like doing that, or if I can't, finding somebody who can help me with it.
Well, is it better to know that you have money in the bank to pay for a repair, a year before you need it, or right when it happens and you have to scrape together $2,000?
Right. Never fun.
I mean, if you got to go to the bank and take everything you got, $2,000, and go replace your water heater, it's like that's money that you'd never see, or you know what I mean? That's like a repair that you don't even care that you made.
Right.
Other than now that you have hot water. You
Right.
don't see it. It's not something that you know what I mean? Again, it is hot water, but you don't see it.
It's not like upgrading your bathroom or your closet or something that
it's like adding insulation to your attic.
You're
paying all this money to be more comfortable.
Yep.
But you don't ever see it. Nobody's ever going to come over and go, "Oh, you must have really nice insulation."
Yeah. So the best $3,000 I ever spent was having the exterior of my home painted.
Yeah.
Because that's something you appreciate every single day.
Absolutely.
Multiple times in a day.
It's funny, that tip you just gave about having somebody else come over. That's actually, we've talked about that before with curb appeal. Ask a neighbor to come over and that you trust and say, man, what would you change in your house?
What looks dumpy about my house? Before you ask that question, you need to put on your armor, because it's what comes from a good friend. What comes back is going to probably be a little painful. It's going to sting a little.
That roast, like the roasting shows where they put people in and they make fun of them.
I love
they have
those.
really tough skin when you say, just be honest.
Yeah, you do.
What do you think of my house?
Yeah.
And you go, man, I tell you what. You're the dumpiest house on the street.
Yeah, but you want to hear that if you're going to improve, right? Where there's no feedback, there's no improvement, I feel like.
Yeah, if you care to hear it.
Yeah, if you care to hear it because you want it to be better, then that's what you got to do. You got to get somebody to tell you and be honest with you about it.
Yeah.
So we talked about a water heater, right? And we talked about the electrical aspect and the plumbing aspect, and that's definitely something that should be on your radar. Obviously, somewhere 10 to 15 years into your home, or if you've bought a home and you don't know how old it is, I mean, it needs to be on your radar. But there's a lot of appliances. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, there are things, for instance, in my case, I replaced my furnace. Not because it was necessarily bad, but it was extremely outdated. It was 30 years old, and it was super inefficient. It was a very inefficient furnace. So I replaced it for two reasons. One, I knew it was going to break. It was going to be an epic fail. And I didn't want to be in the middle of winter with a pregnant wife and child.
When it happened. Right.
And it's like I knew it was going to happen. So I preemptively paid the money, had a brand new furnace put in, a super high efficiency furnace. So my heat bill actually went down. Not enough to say pay for itself, in a short period of time.
Sure.
But it will pay for itself in the comfortability of my home and in my pocketbook in that bill.
And your peace of mind.
Yes, and my peace of mind. And the same thing happened with my air conditioner. I had an older air conditioner that was installed in the house when we bought it, and the condenser outside started not working, and the AC was intermittent.
Yeah.
And they actually came over. My buddy who's an HVAC contractor came over, and he's like, "Yeah, you got like a few months left on this thing, and it's toast
on its last leg."
So we opted at that time to get both situations done.
That's a big expense, but it's not as big of an expense if you're planning for it than it is if you're not.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you got to kind of know about it ahead of time. to be able to plan for it.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of other appliances too that I think we probably think, well, this should last forever, but it probably won't. And if you don't maintenance it regularly, it's going to shorten its lifespan. Here's one primary example. Refrigerator. Refrigerators are expensive.
They are.
I mean, $600 or $700 or $800, probably up to even. I mean,
oh yeah,
you can get refrigerators
$3,000
that talk to you, and they get really expensive.
I think the mid-level refrigerator now is like $1,500.
Right.
I mean, a lower end, yeah, with maybe just a freezer over, something like that. Yeah, you can get those for $800, $600.
Something that fails on a refrigerator, if it's the refrigerator that's hooked up to your water and it makes ice for you and dispenses water, right? Well, that refrigerator has a filter that filters that water that comes from your pipes before it goes into your cup. Well, those filters only last probably, 3 months or 6 months, maybe a year. But you got to be prepared. Those things are $40 or $50 a piece. I think you probably get yours on Amazon. You get everything on Amazon.
I do. I buy like 3 packs in there. But yeah, they're still $25 a piece.
Yeah. How often do those things go away?
It
depends probably on how much you use it.
Yeah, and it depends on probably the water that you have. Mine actually has a little alarm. My fridge has a little alarm tells me, hey, change it.
Yeah, then whether you change that or don't change that, that's not really going to shorten the life of your refrigerator. Something that will shorten the life of your refrigerator is dust and what do you call dust bunnies? What is like a really big dust bunny? Lint and things that get attracted onto the coils that are underneath your refrigerator. Some of the newer refrigerators, I think, have like some underpinning or something that kind of protect it from that, but it gets in there. If it's sucking air in to cool the motor of the fridge, then anything where it's sucking air in can go right in there with it. And you have to be prepared to take that cover off, that vent cover off, and vacuum that stuff out in there because it can certainly shorten the life of your refrigerator.
Yeah, it pays to pull it out once in a while and clean that out. And I actually have fallen victim to a refrigerator leak. That's what got us to remodel our kitchen a few years back. The water entered into the fridge, that wore out, I guess, and broke. And it just happens. It was an epic fail that caused $60,000 worth of damage.
Yeah.
In my case, but those like the water supply line. That's another one. The water supply lines that you're supposed to replace regularly on your washing machines, your dishwasher. They even say, I think on your toilet, you're supposed to replace that water supply line every so often.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the backside of a refrigerator. An older refrigerator, right, will probably have like a 1/4-inch copper tube that's sort of coiled up back there and then runs into the floor and goes to your water supply. Those copper tubes have a tendency to get kinked. And if you move your fridge in and out, if you're vacuuming behind it or retrieving toys for the kids, you move that in and out, that can get kinked and that will cause that to fail and be in the same situation that you're in. And you definitely don't want to have that.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take another quick break. When we come back, more things in your home that will fail. You're listening to Tony Corey, Your Weekend Warriors. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Thanks for staying with us. If you haven't already, go check out our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channels. We're at WW Home Show. We're actually filming this right now for our YouTube podcast. You can go check that out on youtube.com/WW Home Show. Or you can go check out our website. That's the easiest. It's www.homeshow.com. Or you can go to par.com. That's PARR.com. Click on the Weekend Warriors link and it'll take you there.
You can also pick up our podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Apple Podcast. I'm getting there. It's a lot.
Someday we'll be able to spout all that up. Yeah, we're everywhere. I mean, if you miss the show and you're just catching it, or if you want to just go listen to it again, go download our podcasts. Those are doing, they're just sitting there, hanging out.
Yeah, they're doing really good. Lots of listens.
Today we're talking about epic failures around your house, things that are commonly falling apart.
Yeah.
On your house.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I know that we've got a list and I'm going to jump a little bit because it's really weighing on me. I've been having almost nonstop trouble. After 15 years in the house and having no trouble at all, I'm having nonstop trouble with my toilets. I have 3 toilets in the house, and all 3 of them have needed to have, at different times, mind you, which is probably what's weighing on me the most, have had to have the valve on the inside replaced, have had to have the handle replaced, have had to have
The water supply lines, right? Didn't you do that?
Yeah, had the water supply lines replaced, had to replace the closet bolts. I mean, I feel like my toilets literally had a 15-year lifespan, and then right at the 15-year mark, they all just started falling apart, but at different times.
They take a lot of abuse.
Here's a little story, and this is very important. Nice. I had a leaky toilet. I could hear it running, right? So here it is, just on a random Tuesday, and I hear the toilet running when I'm not even in the bathroom. And it just comes on and runs for a little bit, and then it stops. And I realize that what's happening is some water is leaking out through the bowl, and then the tank is draining into the bowl to replace that water, and then water is having to fill the tank when it reaches a certain point.
Back up. Yeah.
Right. And so it just runs for a little bit, and then it stops. Well, I thought, yep, I need to replace that valve probably because it's causing my toilet to run. But I didn't do anything about it. You know, a couple weeks goes by, a couple of months goes by, and I hear it and I hear it and I hear it, and I finally decide, man, I'm gonna have to do something about that. Guess what? I got my water bill. And my water bill was unbelievable, like $500.
Woo!
And I said, what in the world is going on? I mean, it's only just running for a few seconds, 750 times a day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and it was a lot, and I had no idea of the volume of water that I was losing.
That's a lot of water.
When I was hearing this thing run a little bit. So I naturally had no idea what I was doing. And then I replaced it, of course, immediately after that and learned a valuable lesson. Now, the city that I live in actually refunded me back a large portion of that money, which they do for people who experience, you know, leaky toilet. If you have a leaky toilet and you have to fix it and you show them a receipt that you fixed it, they will put that together with your bill and then they'll refund you back some money. I'm not saying everybody does that. The city that I live in did that. It made it a little bit easier to, you know, to bear.
To flush.
But I'll tell you what, I hear that toilet run now and I'm rushing out to the store
You're gonna flush out that problem?
to get whatever I need to fix that. But here's another little tip. I don't know if you've replaced a toilet handle in your toilet recently.
Yes.
Do not use a plastic toilet handle.
No.
I put a brand new plastic toilet handle in my toilet, and I'm like, okay, I won't have to do that for another 15 years. Yeah, like 3 months, broken, and I had to replace it again. So I realized that just grabbing the cheapest plastic toilet handle that's out there just because it's white and it matches your toilet, not necessarily the way to go. Get something that's sturdy, heavy duty. It's worth it for a few extra bucks to get something that will last. And
Hey, I have a question for you. Have you ever checked your water pressure on your home?
I mean, I have because the city actually at one point came out and said we need to reduce the amount of water pressure that you have. Your setting at the street level is too high, and they had to cut it back to a certain point where they had everybody.
I just wonder, because with high water pressure can come many failures. That is one of the things that when you buy a home, they will actually test the water pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be within a certain range.
Right.
And they won't say, yeah, you got to fix this or else. You know, and you might think, I'm not fixing that.
Right.
I love the showers.
Yeah.
But you have to think about the valves in your washer and in your dishwasher and all of these other things, you know, in your
washing machine
and all those things, right? They're made out of plastic. And when they turn on, you'll hear them, and then you'll hear the water flow, and then you hear them turn off.
Yeah.
And sometimes if there's a lot of water pressure, it could be a jolt to that system. And the same thing with the water supply lines on your toilets. Those same things, all of those valves and all of those things are made of plastic. And with too much water pressure, it can cause catastrophic failures.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, big catastrophic failures. So you're better off getting the water pressure checked. If you haven't had it checked in a while, maybe check it if you're having a lot of issues like you were having.
Mm-hmm.
You can get what's called installed on your water if you have water from the street, a PRV valve, a pressure reducing valve. It's kind of a pear-shaped little thing with a screw on top. And it installs in line with your water main coming in, and you can just
Dial it back.
thread it down. You had to turn the water pressure down or up. We actually had a situation where I had somebody ask me about low water pressure. And sure enough, they climbed under their house and there was a PRV valve down there and it was just cranked all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to just thread it out a little bit, turn the water pressure up, and he was golden.
Nice.
So
That sounds like a pretty easy fix
yeah,
for a shower that doesn't shoot out enough to cover your whole body. Speaking
like
of
an RV shower, you're like,
Speaking of the shower, there's something else that fails. Showerheads. Showerheads, like other faucets, fail. They will not last the lifetime of your shower or the lifetime of your house. And I actually need to replace my shower head right now. It's some of the little holes where the water's supposed to come out are clogged or blocked or whatever. I probably just need to soak that thing in something that,
CLR.
that
Soak it in
breaks down those minerals.
I do that actually pretty regularly. I'll take the shower head off and they'll start to just spray randomly or one will shoot off towards the wall.
Yeah.
You can take that whole thing off, unthread it, take it apart, and drop it in a bag, like a 1 gallon Ziploc baggie put some CLR in there, and then put the shower head in there, zip it up, and let it sit there overnight. And then next morning, rinse it off. Bam! Brand spanking new.
Wow. That's a great tip. I really need to do that because I'm having some trouble with mine right now.
Yeah, another failure can happen with your shower valves, the handle valves. In my particular case, I had this just happen to me. We had to replace them because there's a mix valve in there that can wear down. There's all kinds of O-rings in there that prevent the water from getting really hot. And it's to protect you when you're in the shower. Somebody flushes the toilet and you get super duper hot water. So those mixture valves in there can wear out and you can replace them. A lot of them have cartridges that you just slide out and slide back in. But ours was so old, we just opted to replace the whole thing.
Another very common failure in the shower is the caulking that's used between the tub and the wall or whatever it is that the interior finishes of your shower. Caulking in a shower will get mildewy. It will separate. It will split or crack. And when that starts to happen, you need to strip all that stuff out of there, clean it really good.
Make sure it's dry.
And then replace that sealant in all of those nooks and crannies because it just simply won't last forever.
I actually have some tips about that when we get back.
All right, take a quick break. When we come back, more house failures. Listen to Tony Core, Your Weekend Warriors. Don't go away.
Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Thanks for sticking around. Today we're talking about epic home failures. And before the break, we were talking about the shower and how the shower valve can go bad. Your shower head sometimes can be, an epic fail there. One of the things when you're re-caulking, we were talking about caulking in your bathtub and surround. If you use the wrong type, it will fail even sooner. You'll start seeing it mold and it'll turn black. And doesn't matter the amount of stuff you spray on it, it is not going to come out. So you want to make sure that you're using the proper sealants on the front side. You can buy mold and mildew preventative caulking that has mildicides in it. That's definitely what you want to use. In silicone base, you don't want to use anything sort of acrylic, in my opinion, because acrylic is water-based. So you wouldn't want to put anything water-based inside of your shower. Silicone is messy. It's hard to work with. You have to clean it with mineral spirits. But if you get good at it, you can just, caulk it in there, lay the bed in there, and then tool it. And it's not that difficult.
Yeah.
But I do want to say the caulking that's in there, you never want to just caulk over top of what's already there.
Right.
We had a situation in our bathroom that we're in the middle of working on shortly here, or picking out all the new finishes for it, but there's some black mold in there on the caulking. And my wife said, well, can't you just put some new over the top, just cover it up for now? And I'm like, unfortunately, no, because it won't even stick. So that's one of the things I've seen before where people caulk right over top of old caulking, and that does nothing.
Oh, no, they'll just pile it in there.
Yeah.
Just get a good, 3/4 to 1 inch bead, just slather it in there, get a tool and just grout in there.
So what you got to do is cut it out. You got to cut the old caulking out. Unfortunately, that's the only way to do it.
And then you need to clean and dry the material behind the old caulking after it comes out. It needs to be clean and dry before you apply the new sealant.
Yes, sir.
Yep, that's a good tip. That's a great tip. When we're talking about things that fail, just here's one word. I know we've already mentioned it in the refrigerator: filter. If it has the word filter, then it needs to be replaced. Filters are not meant to last. Filters are meant to fill up and be replaced with a new filter. So filter anywhere in the house is something that's got to be done. As long as you're in the bathroom, the exhaust fan in the bathroom. That thing is on all the time. A lot of people have an exhaust fan that comes on when the light comes on. And if you think about how often the light's on in there, that exhaust fan is running a lot. And when it's running, it's sucking air out of the room, and everything that's in the air is going with it. That thing gets filled up with dust and lint and whatever is there and hair, and you have got to vacuum that thing and keep it as clean as possible, but eventually it will stop working and it will need to be replaced as well.
Well, there's a lot of filters too that can be cleaned. For instance, range hood filters, a lot of times those can just be taken out and soaked in some sort of solution, and then you rinse them off, dry them off, and put them back in there, and they're completely fine. Even some furnace filters. Some furnace filters are 1-year filters. They have little things, they're metal, and you pull them out, and you rinse them off, and you put them back in. So it's just that maintenance. You got to do it because, like Tony said, a filter's meant to attract all that stuff, and when it's full,
it's full.
It's full.
And then it stops working. And if it's reducing the amount of airflow because it's got stuff in it, then it's causing the machine that it's filtering the air for to work harder than it should.
Right.
And that's really where...
effectively lowering its efficiency and its lifespan.
Lifespan, yeah. That's really important. And here's another one, Corey, that we should spend a few minutes talking about. The biggest filter in your house. Do you know what the biggest filter in your house is?
I know.
I know you know. What is the biggest filter in your house?
The carpet in my living room.
That's right, the carpet. I mean, you've got a pretty big filter in your furnace, don't get me wrong. That thing's a monster.
It is pretty big.
But it's not as big as your carpet. Your carpet filters literally everything. And while your carpet can be cleaned, you know what can't be cleaned? The pad underneath your carpet.
True.
And if you have a conventional pad underneath your carpet, then it's susceptible to staining and odor and all of the things that go through your carpet. Your carpet literally is full of holes. You can't see them. They're tiny little holes, but they're full of holes. And anything that gets deposited in the carpet that doesn't get vacuumed up just goes right through that carpet and onto the pad. That means, anything that came from inside of your dog or from inside of your children or, from off of your plate or whatever, it gets onto the carpet, it soaks through the carpet and into the pad. Now, you can clean your carpet all day long, but you will not get that greasy, stinky, stain type stuff out of that pad. And so eventually that pad will need to be replaced.
Greasy.
I mean, it's true. You've had this situation where you have a carpet, maybe it's a lighter colored carpet, and you have some problems. So you hire somebody to come in and clean it. Maybe a steam cleaner, maybe Stanley Steamer comes in and they clean your carpet and you're like, wow, it looks so great. And then about 1 week later, you start to see, hey, is that a new stain right where that old stain was? It just comes right back because the stuff that's in the pad just pushes right back up through the carpet again because
Gross.
You can't get it out of the pad. Here's a tip for you. If you're going to replace your carpet in a room or some rooms and you want to preserve the life of your pad, you can buy what they call a pet pad, which actually has a very thin plastic layer at the top of the pad, which beads up water or other liquids, which gives you an opportunity to to shampoo the carpet and suck that stuff from on top of the pad back up into the vacuum cleaner or whatever item you're using to shampoo it.
I would hope not a vacuum cleaner.
It is a little bit more expensive. Well, Kirby's got a shampooer on it. It's a vacuum cleaner, but it shampoos. Oh, yeah. So anyways.
A vac poo?
It's a good tip going forward if you want to preserve the life of your pad, but it can be expensive to replace your carpet, and it's something you should plan for.
Something else with the flooring. Old floor, they get worn out. Even some of the newer floors that are out there, like engineered hardwoods that are pre-finished engineered hardwoods. I have such a flooring in my home, and I thought it was the greatest thing since Swiss cheese. Put it in there, and it's done. You don't have to do any sanding or finishing. You just put it in and nail it down. And
it looks great.
And it does look great for a little period of time. I am not the biggest fan now that I've had it for 5 years. I would say if I were to do it over again, I would go with sand in place. Put the 3/4 inch hardwood down, sand it down to flat, and then put a coat, or several coats of high gloss finish or whatever finish you want on it. The biggest problem that I have is with the pre-finished engineered hardwoods at every seam. The kids, they spill a drink and they don't clean it up, or you have a pet and the biggest one have accidents.
The biggest one's an ice cube.
Yeah, an ice cube.
Ice cube drops and you can't see it.
Nope.
Right? But then hours later, it's melted and now it's a puddle. And it's sitting right on top of two boards, right where two boards come together. And the thing is the finish on the board is waterproof. It is.
Yeah.
But the gap between the two boards, when the water soaks down in there and gets down to the tongue and the groove, on the edges of the board, it's not pre-finished. And that's susceptible to soaking and swelling.
I know. I would, they say, wood shouldn't swell. But it does.
It does.
I mean, it gets down in the edges and it swells.
Yep.
And in my kitchen especially, there's a lot of areas where the ice cubes, my kids love ice.
I know it.
And it just goes everywhere. And then you don't see it for a day.
Right.
And then the edges of all that hardwood is just lifted up. I think it looks terrible.
An ice cube that drops from the fridge or the freezer to the toe, which gets redirected, can travel across that floor like 35 feet. And you're looking in the general vicinity of where that ice cube should be, and it's not. It's on the other side of the room.
It's terrible.
Impossible to find until it's a swollen spot on the floor.
Depending on which engineered hardwood flooring you have, a lot of them can be sanded down and refinished. I have the flooring that I chose. Actually, the reason I chose it is because it does have the top veneer. It's really thick. It's like almost 3/16 of an inch thick. And it can be sanded down and refinished up to 3 times, according to the salesperson at the store. So I'm prepared. I know at some point it's going to drive me to the point where I think it just looks terrible. And I'm going to get the whole house sanded down and finished flat and a new coat put on top of it.
That's going to be very nice. I think I love to be the recipient of a new floor. Floors are amazing when they're freshly finished, and I would be jealous of you. We got to actually take a quick break here shortly. When we come back, though, we're going to be covering more of the items on the list, things that you can expect to fail in your home. You're listening to Tony and Corey, your Weekend Warriors, and we'll be right back.
Listening to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show, built by Par Lumber. When it comes to big or small projects around the home, Tony and Corey have got the know-how and the answers to make your life just a bit easier. Now, here's Tony and Corey.
Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Thanks for sticking around. I'm Corey Valdez.
I'm Tony Cookston.
Today we're talking about epic house failures, epic fail of things that just happen.
Yeah.
That happen to go bad inside of your house that you should not be terribly surprised about.
Right, exactly. Here's one thing in your house that needs to be replaced periodically. Toothbrush. If you're using the same toothbrush that you've always had, folks, you need to replace it.
go back and forth between the grout, the toilet, and your teeth.
You're using the same toothbrush for all of those things. No.
Gross.
But like a toothbrush, some things need to be replaced. They wear out, and they're designed to do that, and then you need to replace it with a new one. And so, but some of the things are very obvious, and some of the things are not so obvious.
Well, I want to take us back in the bathroom, unfortunately.
Not in the bathroom.
I want to get you down in the dumps.
In the dumps.
Or anything, but we got to go back to the bathroom because there was one thing on my list that regularly happens. And it's with the toilet again, the closet bolts. And if you don't know what a closet bolt is, it's essentially underneath your toilet, there is a wax ring and another ring that is screwed down to the floor. And these closet bolts are like a oval shape at the bottom. And they slide into that ring and then rotate around so that they align with your toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And you put the toilet down on there and tighten those up, and then those little white caps pop over those.
The white caps last like 6 months.
I know.
And it either breaks or gets lost
Disappear.
somewhere.
A lot of times those dang closet bolts are made out of really cheap material, and they rust
Very quickly.
And sometimes, you'll go to use the bathroom or the toilet, and it rocks.
Yep.
And if you don't address that right away, then you are asking for trouble.
Yeah.
Because everything that put in that toilet goes through that wax ring. And if you're creating separation between the wax ring and the toilet and the floor and all of that stuff, you're asking for that to not go through the wax ring, but to come out.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, those closet bolts are pretty straightforward to fix, but you do have to completely empty your toilet, the tank, the everything, and lift the toilet up and set it off to the side, maybe put it in a garbage bag and set it off to the side, and then replace all of the stuff that's worn, rusted, or broken underneath that toilet.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to let that sit around.
This is also the time to replace the wax ring.
Yeah.
If you've taken the toilet off of the flange that's attached to the floor, which is around the hole, right? And you got ABS pipe or sewer pipe that's attached to the bottom of that. So the closet bolts attach the bowl to the flange, and the wax ring is the sealant that's between the toilet and the flange. So when you take the toilet off to replace the bolts, which you do need to be holding your toilet tight to that flange, this is the time to replace that wax ring. Just, scoop that stuff up that's on there, put a new wax ring down on there, and set your toilet back on it. And then whatever you do, when you put the toilet back on top of the wax ring, don't rock it side to side. Just press it in there, maybe sit on the seat and just let it settle right down there. And then put your nuts back on your new closet bolts, and voila, you're good to go.
Bazang.
Yeah.
Another thing that breaks often on the toilet is the lid.
Yeah, I have a broken lid right now.
I know. I just had to replace mine not too long ago.
Where did you find it?
Home Depot.
Really?
Yeah,
I don't even know who
$6.
I don't know. I don't recognize that name.
I know.
I don't know what that is. But,
$6.
Really? That's all it was, huh?
$6.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that here's the funny thing about the one that I had to replace. They must have lost the bolts that hold the toilet lid down to the toilet, right? There's two holes in the back of the toilet, and the bolts go down, and then they're usually thread up from the back. And a lot of the newer ones come with a plastic thread and a plastic nut. Well, these yahoos used an old zinc carriage bolt, like a 1/4 inch by 6 inch carriage bolt, two of them, and threaded a nut in a washer all the way up 6 inches. That thing was rusted solid.
Oh, man.
It was not coming off. I had to get my Sawzall out and cut the bolts off.
Wow.
I was mad.
I bet. Yeah, you said lid, and I guess you were talking about the seat lid.
Oh, well.
I was
the
thinking
whole-
about the tank lid.
Oh, sorry.
I have a broken tank lid. I don't even know. I mean, that's something I have to start working
Amazon.
on. Yeah, everything's on Amazon. Yeah, so are we done in the bathroom?
I think
I'm ready
so.
to be done in the bathroom.
There's just a lot of things. It's a lot of wear and tear in the bathroom.
We actually spent a minute or two in the kitchen, but something we didn't talk about that does not have, does not have a 100-year lifespan is the disposal. If you have a disposal attached to the bottom of your kitchen sink, that disposal is, while it seems to be super rugged and able to do anything, it is kind of fragile and susceptible to failure. And here's the thing, if your disposal's not working, right, then anything that goes in there is stuck there, right? You're in there reaching in there, fishing stuff out because it won't drain. If you've got solids that go down to the disposal and the disposal won't run, that stuff's stuck there and it's going to start to smell. So you're in a situation and you can't just take it off because then you have this hole in the bottom of your sink. So you need to think about this. Obviously, you're not going to replace it probably before it fails, but it's something you can plan for. As a matter of fact, you can even go out and buy a new disposal and have it on hand ready to go in case yours is starting to make some funny noises, or if it's getting really loud when you run it.
Oh, man.
Disposals are really quiet.
The newer ones
when
are,
they're
yeah.
new, yeah. But when it's getting old, 4 or 5 years maybe, it starts to run loud, and it's probably on its last leg at that point.
I know I had a friend over a couple weeks ago, and we were for dinner. We're cleaning up afterwards, and we're running the disposal, and he was like, Is it on? I mean, my disposal is super. I bought the quietest one they make, like the big quiet one, and over his house not too before then. Last time we were there. I mean, it sounded like a Cummins diesel, just it's just so loud. I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, in 15 years at my house, I've replaced mine twice.
Wow.
So and you know what? I love the disposal, so I wouldn't do without it. But you just have to keep in mind that it is something that will fail eventually.
I actually we've gotten listeners that have told us that you should not put food down the disposal. But I've also talked to people who are on the exact opposite of the spectrum, that if you're filling your garbage can with food waste, that you're essentially causing all of this stuff to go into a landfill and just it fills up faster, right? But the reasoning behind this guy was he said that it's all that stuff's going into the water treatment. I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah, well, I've got an answer for you, and we'll talk about that right after the break. You're listening to Tony Core, Your Weekend Warriors. Don't go away.
Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Today we're talking about house failures. And before the break, I was mentioning the disposal and how a listener told us, well, you shouldn't put anything in the disposal because it's running that through the water treatment facility, putting extra strain on that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's a simple answer to that. If you're peeling potatoes or cracking eggs, or you have lemon or lime or orange rinds or banana peels, right, that are left over from you don't want to put that stuff in your disposal. Regardless of whether it's poisoning the water system or not, you're missing a huge opportunity. Those things are perfectly suited to be in your compost bin, which helps to break down yard debris and create mulch, which you would otherwise have to pay for. And so I am a firm believer in composting, and those things, along with coffee grounds, are perfect for apple cores, perfect for your compost bin to help you break down your yard debris and turn it into mulch.
So here's I just found an article that just talks about garbage disposals and the things that you're not supposed to put in them. And coffee grounds is the number one thing on the list. Yeah. Coffee grounds. I don't put my coffee grounds in the garbage or in the disposal, but I didn't know that you couldn't. Another one's pasta. Pasta expands when soaked in water for long periods of time, so it can potentially get caught in there. Chicken bone, any sort of bones.
Right, bones never, of course.
Oatmeal. Did you know that?
Interesting, I didn't.
Oatmeal also expands, so you can get it stuck in the sewer.
Boy, oatmeal. When is the last time you ate oatmeal?
Well, my kids eat oatmeal all the time.
So oatmeal, a little bit of oatmeal residue left in a bowl that does not get filled with water. Man, it's like concrete. I mean, I am telling you, that stuff
So it
is
sticks to your bones.
that is the hardest thing in the world to clean out of a bowl. I'll tell you what, I don't even want to know what it's doing in the disposal. No nuts, huh?
Yeah, no nuts in the
Disposal.
disposal. Onion skins.
Ooh, yeah, onion skin. Interesting.
Eggshells.
Eggshells, of course.
Let's see here. Garbage. Any sort of trash. Anything that is not biodegradable.
Of course. So no paper. You don't want to put paper in your disposal.
Any fibrous vegetable like pumpkin or squash. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're kind of stringy.
Spaghetti squash.
Yeah. You don't want to put those in the disposal.
And potato
peels.
Yeah, absolutely.
I knew somebody that would just
Peel the potatoes right in the sink.
right into the sink and
Run
then
it down in there.
right
Yeah.
down into the disposal.
Here's the thing. The potato peels, when you peel them off, can be super thin, and yet they're also formidable in that they're strong. And so what happens is they'll slip down between the wall and the spinning rotor, and they will wedge in there and cause that rotor to not be able to spin. Been there. No good.
Interesting.
Yeah, you don't want to do it.
Pits like
No
peach
seeds?
pits or big seeds like that. Cleaning chemicals.
Now, yeah, this brings me to another point. As we're looking at this and thinking about this, we've had a lot of conversation in the past about putting liquid drain
Drano,
cleaner, or those types of chemicals in there. Of course, you're definitely taking a risk when you're dumping that kind of chemical into the sink, which, like you said, ultimately ends up probably in the public water system or something along those lines. I'm no expert in that area either, but it seems like not putting chemicals in there is a good idea.
Yeah. Last couple here. Corn husks.
Oh yeah, those are
that was
stringy.
Who would do that?
I
That
don't
one
know.
seems weird.
Corn husks, I wouldn't think would even chop it up anyways.
Probably not.
Oh, and shells,
Yeah.
like
Seafood shells.
no sand dollars. Don't put sand dollars in there, or mussels.
turtles.
Or keep your turtles out. But we have heard on multiple occasions that it's okay to put ice in there, and that ice may actually help to sharpen the blades that are in there.
Yeah, and clean it out.
Yeah.
It was funny because one time I had heard, it's another thing that you cut like a lemon or a slice of lemon or something and put it in there and run it. I don't think you want to throw the whole lemon in.
You don't want to throw the rind in there. It can be, especially if the lemon has been sitting for a while. The rind on the outside of a lime or a lemon.
It's really hard.
It's like leather. I mean, it's like throwing a baseball glove in there and hoping that it's going to grind it up.
So we went to an open house one time at a house, and I think that the disposal stunk really bad because they threw an entire lime or lemon into the disposal. It was really funny because I didn't do it, but somebody turned on the disposal maybe to test it during this open house. And it was just like, just, you could hear the thing and everybody kind of walked over all laughing about it. Like, who would throw an entire lemon in there?
Silly. That is silly. Those things grind up a lot of stuff, but they don't grind up everything.
Totally.
So following the rules and making sure you're just disposing of things that should be in there is smart. And coffee grounds is not one of them, although it seems like the natural place to do it.
Yeah.
You rinse out your coffee filter. It's easy to do that right there in the sink.
I think bulk coffee grounds. I think if you have a little bit in your thing, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. What about the K-cup? Just throw the whole K-cup right down in there. Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Here's some easy ones. Some other ones that are probably a little obvious that sometimes slip through the cracks. Your smoke alarm.
Yes.
Sometimes smoke alarms, even the batteries, replacing the battery, sometimes they just go bad.
Yep.
And you need to replace the whole thing. They actually make now 10-year smoke alarms. So you put them up and
hardwired?
No, they just have a battery and then that lasts 10 years. And you put them in and you never have to worry about it again.
Interesting. Wow.
That's the last ones I put in my house are the 10-year batteries, so I don't have to worry about replacing the batteries anymore. A fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. We work at Par Lumber Company. In Par Lumber Company, we employ fire extinguishers in all of the necessary areas. And fire extinguishers left sitting, they will and can fail, actually. They need to be serviced, actually, on a regular basis. We have ours serviced every year. A fire extinguisher specialist comes out. Of course, we have like 25 fire extinguishers on the property, and so it's important to make sure that they're all functioning properly. So we have somebody come out and they check each one. You know, the stuff can settle to the bottom and then sort of become hard and then not disperse out of the nozzle when you fire it off like it's supposed to. So I think they maybe shake them up and, you know, just make sure that they're working. Of course, check the needle, make sure the needle is in the go area or the green area and not in the red area. But just inspect your fire extinguisher, know how old it is. You can actually go online and take a look at a few things that you can do to inspect your extinguisher, make sure it's working properly.
Yeah, the
fire extinguishers can also be refilled.
They can, yeah. And I was going to say, if you don't have one, you should probably get one. I mean, they're pretty inexpensive. You probably pay less than $50 for a good fire extinguisher, but you should have it handy. You know, if there was ever a situation, you could quickly grab it.
It's always a good idea to have one close by in the sink. I mean, in the sink, not in the sink.
Under the sink?
In the kitchen. That seems to be an area where fires are started regularly.
Yeah.
I used to volunteer as a firefighter in the city that I lived in years ago, and I actually responded to a attic fire where the homeowner had a grease fire on the stove and turned on the range hood to vent the smoke that was coming from the grease fire. And the flame went right through the range hood and up into the attic and sparked the insulation, which started the entire attic on fire. And they, of course, got out safe, but we spent hours in there overhauling that house. We had to use pike poles and pull all of the sheetrock down off of the ceiling, and so that we could expose the burning timbers that were up in the attic space. And it was a mess, a major, major mess. Hours also spent in the basement vacuuming up the water that we had just dumped all over that fire in order to put it out. So it happens very fast. A grease fire in the kitchen is pretty common. So keep a fire extinguisher. They actually make fire extinguishers for putting out different types of fires. So one that is a grease fire would be one to use for that. So keep that in your kitchen. It's a good idea.
All right, yeah, we've got a whole list here of things we're running through, but we got to take a quick break.
When we come back, more house failures. Listen to Tony Corey, Your Weekend Warriors. Don't go away.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to the Weekend Warriors Home Improvement Show. Today we're talking about house failures. And before the previous break, we were talking about smoke alarms. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple more things inside the house, you know, the kitchen that can be problematic.
Especially in the kitchen.
Clogged drains. I mean, this is one of those things that happens, and we were just talking about this, not putting chemicals into your disposal.
Mm-hmm.
You want to, there's a down below there, you know, a P-trap. And that P-trap is for keeping water and keeping the gases come out. But it also, you can take it apart and clean that out from underneath. And that's an easy way to do that if you do have a disposal, because you can't snake a disposal.
So we talked about not putting chemicals in the sink, right? Whether it's the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink or whatever the sink, or the drains in the tub or whatever. We talked about not putting chemical in. I got a tip actually recently that the very best thing to pour into your sink that's clogged with hair or whatever's in there, you guess what it is?
What?
Coca-Cola.
Oh, really?
Apparently that will eat anything, including the grease on the engine in your car.
Oh, my.
Apparently Coca-Cola, which does not seem to affect your stomach lining, will literally eat through almost anything else that you put it on. So, that might not be a bad idea. I'm not afraid of pouring Coca-Cola into the city water, right? I mean, I drink it. Most of the world does.
It's all that ascorbic acid.
Whatever it is, but apparently it eats hair. So maybe give it a shot.
We're going to get sued by Coke.
We
love Coke.
Yeah, we do. It's
my favorite.
It's cross-trained as a sink unclogger.
All right, let's move. Let's talk about some other things like outside of the house that are really common.
Oh, yeah.
Going out of the house, our front doors, our entry doors, our windows, weather stripping. Weather stripping is one of those things that just goes bad.
Yep, it does. It gets chewed up by the dog or the cat, or
it wears out.
It just gets compressed to the point where it doesn't come back out and do the job it's supposed to be doing.
And what job is that?
Keeping cold or hot air from traveling in and out of the house. I mean, it's blocking the exchange of heat and cold. And that's really what it keeps drafts down and reduces the transfer of heat and cold. That's its number one job.
Yeah. It's and it does. Another thing that wears out a lot are door sweeps.
No, absolutely.
At the bottom of the door, older doors a lot of times will have like a rubber strip with pieces of rubber that go down and touch the floor and then come across and seal against your threshold. And those things, as they just open and close, the rubber breaks down, just wears it right down over the years.
Yep.
And if you can see daylight under your door,
or on the sides or wherever,
or anywhere, it's time to replace your weather strip.
Absolutely.
It's a pretty inexpensive fix, and you will be glad you did it. If you have an adjustable sill, the threshold, a lot of newer doors have what's called an adjustable sill. And that sill has 3 or 4 different screws in it that you can adjust that up and down.
To meet the bottom of your door.
Exactly.
Or to meet the weather stripping that's on the bottom of your door.
So as things move around and shift and settle and wear down, you can raise the door sill and seal it up properly again.
It probably has a maximum amount that it will raise to maybe a quarter inch or maybe 3/8 of an inch. But,
just enough.
But it can be just enough to close that gap if you've got a gap there.
Some other things, Tony, you actually said that the handle sets on your door have worn out.
Yeah, I've replaced several handle sets in my house since I built it in 2005. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long, 15 years. The handle sets do wear out, especially on the front door. You go in and out of that front door as often as you do, and that hardware is just not going to last forever. I've replaced the handle set on my front door once already, and it's failing today now. And it needs to be replaced again. Also, the handle set on the door that goes from the main living area to the garage, that handle set also needs to be replaced. And you can get a nice, high quality handle set, but it doesn't mean that it's going to last a lifetime. It's really not going to.
Right. Here's some other things. Old windows, single pane windows. I think we all kind of know why they fail. But even newer windows, double pane windows, that seal can fail.
Yep.
And here's some going in even deeper. Some other things about vinyl windows that can fail are the fins. If they're installed incorrectly or have been hit with something, the fins on the exterior of the window that nail the window to the surface of your building, if that cracks, you're in for some serious trouble.
It can be.
Because that water can make its way in and make its way inside of your building, and you would never know it until it's too late. So make sure that you're inspecting those regularly, or if you had some sort of incident with a window, or somebody banged against one, or maybe a soccer ball was kicked really hard against one. The glass may not have broken, but the fin underneath can be a detriment to that window.
Window manufacturers do not warrant the seal of an insulated unit forever. It's not a lifetime warranty because they know it's going to fail. 10 years or 15 years or whatever, those seals start to fail. It depends on a lot of different factors, but that's something to expect. If you have a window that fogs up, right, and then doesn't unfog in one area or maybe even a large portion of the window, that's probably because moisture has gotten into between the panes of the window, and the seal has failed and moisture has gotten in there.
Would you say you have window panes?
Yes, you have at that point for sure. But those can be replaced. It's a matter of a cost. You have to hire a guy. He comes out, measures it, orders a new insulated unit. He pops off the pops off the plastic pieces that hold it on there, and takes that old one out, puts the new one in, puts the plastic pieces back on, and you're good to go.
Well, or you can do it yourself.
You could as a
I've
weekend
replaced
warrior.
mine
Yeah.
twice. I had one break via a la my daughter.
Right.
And
I remember that.
the other one actually broke via a la the remodel. One
That's
of my
right.
buddies got a little overzealous with a sledgehammer, and a piece of wood came flying down and crashed through that window.
Yep, I remember that.
So it wasn't that hard, honestly.
Yeah.
I was able to pull the rough opening measurements. I had to peel the plastic off, take those measurements in. We got it made, and you helped me put it back in.
I did. Yeah, I've replaced the insulated unit in, dozens and dozens of windows in my time. Used to be a window salesperson. I helped out with that a lot. And it can be tedious at times depending on the situation. You know, are you on a ladder or are you on the ground?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, is it a really big window or a smaller window? How sticky is the tape that they used to tape it in with, which you'll have to do? So it can be difficult. Sometimes you break those little plastic pieces that hold the glass in there, and those have to be replaced, and that's not any good. So, sometimes it can be challenging, frustrating, but it's not super difficult. And certainly a weekend warrior could tackle a project like that.
Yeah. Well, I did it twice.
Yeah, you did. You
Bang.
did good. But you know what fails even more often than the seals on your insulated windows? The screens on your windows.
Oh, yeah.
They are so susceptible to damage. They're so fragile. And you want those things functioning properly. It's a lot less expensive to replace those. We actually did a how-to video on replacing the screen in a frame that was not damaged. So if you've got a window frame that's not damaged, replacing the screen is a pretty easy task.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I would say if you have pets, buy the pet screen. They make a screen specifically, a fiberglass screen, that prevents the scratching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it doesn't rip.
Some really big thing that people should be prepared for that does not last the lifetime of the home is the roofing.
Oh, man. I've replaced my roof on this house that I live in now, and you haven't done yours yet?
Nope,
because yours is only 15 years.
15 years, but I'm definitely looking at it in the next 5 if I stay in that house.
Yeah, things you want to look out for: missing shingles, lifted shingles, missing ridge cap. There's all kinds of things. You just want to maybe have it inspected once in a while.
If you want to extend the life of your roof, treat it for moss every year. The moss will grow on there, and it will actually infiltrate underneath the shingle, and it will cause it to lift up, which allows, for stuff to get up underneath that's not supposed to be in there. So you got to keep that moss off of it. That will shorten the lifespan. That's all the time we got for house failures.
So many things.
Yep, really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. This has been another episode of Your Weekend Warriors right here
On the Weekend Warriors Radio Network.
Have a great week.